Michael, first up, just on Tuesday, as far as you know, has everybody come through all right, injury-wise?
We've got a couple of knocks and bruises. I'll probably know more today. I think obviously sometimes when you have the back-to-back games, although obviously it worked in our favour to one degree, we've been on Friday. You tend to get a few little knocks and strains, and you try to carry yourself through this period and get yourself to a period where obviously the games become Saturday. So we'll reassess the squad today, have a look, make sure that the lads that are available and ready and fresh for Saturday, and make sure we pick the right ones.
We touched after the game on Tuesday about Joe Morrell's suspension. Is that something that, for a player like that, it's part of the course? It's going to happen.
Happened to me quite a lot when I was playing. To be fair, yeah, I think it is. Yeah, the reality is that Joe's gone into the last couple of games now, knowing that potentially one missed time tackle is going to cost him and cost him a couple of games suspension. And yeah, you're right. It is part and parcel of what it's about. I think the only thing from his point of view, because of the way the games are at the minute, obviously he's going to miss the Accrington and Gillingham game, and with no game the following week, because that would have been the Bury game. It's going to be a while before he plays, so we have to manage him individually, right? There's no point sort of flogging him for a couple of weeks knowing that he's not going to be available for a while now. So I'll try and manage Joe properly and make sure he gets a little bit of a breathing space as well, because he's played a lot of games.
I guess if you're going to lose a player in any position, though, it's central midfield where you have got the options to bring people in.
Absolutely, yeah, and obviously, there's people chomping at the bit, and we've got a good mix in there, good balance of left side, right side, experienced youth. So yeah, we're okay.
Can you just clarify what's happening with the players that aren't in the squad? Because as you said, there's no friendlies, there's no reserve team as they used to be back in the day. How are you keeping them motivated and keeping them ready for if they are needed?
As ever, just make sure we've got variety in the training and what we do. There will be games coming up for those players. Obviously, now we're going into a period where it's Saturday, and we don't have to worry too much about the midweek games. You can allow yourself to have some more friendly games. And in the past, over the last couple of months, we've had some really, really good games at a couple of Premier League clubs and obviously a couple of local clubs. So between now and the end of the season, there will be games for the lads who are not getting first team fixtures. There'll be games on a regular basis just to make sure they're topped up.
Lee Freckerton and Tom Pett, two players who you've openly said are unlikely to feature. What's the plan with them? Because they're here, aren't they, till the summer, unless you can try and get them and move elsewhere? Yeah,
I mean, you never say never, but I suppose the ball's in their court, so to speak. They'll continue to train and stay fit and stay as fit as they possibly can. But like you say, we've got lots of options in them areas and people that I hope, some of them, to be with us for a long, long time. So going forward, I think it's important to stay true to what we're about and what we're going to do, and be as honest and respectful as we possibly can, which I have been since the day I walked through the door.
And how difficult is it for them in their shoes as well, the fact that they know they're not going to get much football and they know their contract's coming to an end in the summer?
Well, it depends how open and transparent your manager's been, and I like to think I've been open and transparent with them as individuals right from day one, and that hasn't changed. So I think it's a little bit more difficult for a player if you hear something of someone else, or not from the person who's in charge of making decisions. But I think as long as you're honest with people and you show a little bit of humility, which has always been the case, I think most times you come up with the right answers.
And just to clarify, because there's lots of rumours going around, are they still training as part of the group, or are they part of the youth team, just to clear all those up?
Well, I mean, I think I've cleared it up the other day. I think it was Mark who asked me the question. There absolutely no chance at any time will they be training with a youth team. It's not my style. It's not how I do things. They'll be training as part of a big group, and that's the problem I suppose I've got at the minute because of the lack of injuries. I think the other day we trained with, I think we had a group of 25, and you can't physically do anything that's worthwhile in leading into a game with 25 players, so you have to split the group up. It's impossible. It's the reason why you have an assistant manager, first team development coach, goalkeeping coaches. So if the group gets split and you only work with 18 or 20 or 22, that's life. It works up and down the country at every single football club.
Teo Adam, I'm going to speak to him shortly. How do you feel he got on at left back? And I know he's played left back in his career, but do you think left back or central midfield, that's the two areas we'll see a lot more of him play for Lincoln City?
I hope to see, over the sort of length of his contract here, I hope to see him more as a central midfield player. There's no doubt about that. But part of the thinking behind bringing him in was that he was more than capable of playing in various positions. I think I've said that in the past as well, where if we're going to build a squad in the future that is going to be really, really competitive, you've got to try and use your budget as best you possibly can, and in doing that, having 2 or 3 players in the squad that are capable of playing in more positions than one, it enables you to utilise your budget in certain areas, in the right areas. So, for instance, at the end of the day, everybody's looking for that goal-scoring, centre forward who's going to guarantee you goals. And what it might do is, if you've got players who, like Tail, who can play as well at left back as they can in central midfield or possibly on one of the wings, it allows you to use that money a little bit more wisely.
Accrington are sides that don't necessarily have a big budget themselves, but are coping well with life at League One level once again. What are we expecting from them?
Tough game. Obviously, they got a good win in midweek. They've got a manager who thrives on, being in the position and the type of club that they are. Probably a chairman and owner as well who does the same. The environment that they create and how they make it difficult for teams at home makes them very, very difficult to beat. And it's not and I mean this in the greatest respect, because I know Andy and I know John well, it's not a very, let me choose my words properly here, it's not a great place to go and visit, and they make the environment as difficult as they possibly can, and it works for them. We have to go into the game expecting and thinking it's going to be the most difficult game of the season, and I think if you do that, you certainly make sure that mentally you're in the right frame of mind, and then when it comes down to obviously the physical side of it and the technical side of it, that will happen on the day.
Is that something you think about as a manager when people come to Sincilbank? Great facility, great setup. Are you thinking in your mind, how can I make this a more difficult place to come for away teams?
Well, I think the best way to do that is by recruiting a really, really good squad of players and making sure you've got one of the best teams. I'm sure there's an element of thinking behind a lot of football clubs and a lot of managers to try and create an environment that's difficult. I think the 2 biggest things that we can do, certainly here, is one, like I just said, create the best squad possible, and then the fans obviously make the place intimidating as they possibly can, and which they have done on numerous occasions already this year.
Lovely, thank you.
Michael, those conversations with the likes of Leif Reckington and Tom Pett, how difficult are they?
Well, they're difficult if you try and be devious and try and not tell the truth, but if you're telling the truth and be honest, they're very, very easy. I think I said before, I live my life around humility and respect, and I think if people are respectful to me, I'll be respectful back, and that'll never change. And I think the only thing I can ask as a manager, whether I'm speaking to my players, fans, you guys, the board, whatever it may be, is just treat me with respect. And I think if you're honest with people, it's very, very difficult to be angry with them at times. You can be maybe angry for a certain amount of time, but I think once you step away from it and take a step back, actually, you're doing everything for the right reasons. I'm
sure they're disappointed, but I guess they appreciate your honesty.
I hope so, because I've never had an issue with players that I like in the past. I think those people who get it straight off the manager tend to respect that fact.
Is that approach come from the experiences you had in your playing career and the various managers you were with and stuff like that?
A little bit, I suppose. I like being straight with people and telling them how it is, and I expect that to myself. People telling that to myself. If that's the case, then fantastic.
With your lone players at the moment, is it a little bit of a juggling act? You can only have 5 in your match day squad, can't you?
Yeah, it is, and we were aware of that. Obviously, obviously the TJ one was a late one in the day, and obviously the 6th loan that we had to bring in. But I suppose we found ourselves in a position where with Bozzy we weren't too sure what his recovery was going to be and how long it was going to be after the window was shut. I think it just made sense that we brought someone in, and the fact that we were able to get someone like TJ, who we were aware of, obviously, and know the qualities that he's got. I think if you look at the situation as it is, certainly over the next 2 games, we've got a decision to make, because obviously Joe's out of the squad for the next 2 games, so that is one of the loans out of it. And it's whether, Bozzy's in a position where he's comfortable to come back into the squad or not, and if he isn't, then obviously we've covered all bases having TJ in the building.
Has he been able to train much this week?
Who?
Bozzy?
Yeah.
He's looking okay, is he? Yeah. In terms of Accrington, I think you mentioned it the other day, have you got to treat it like a cup tie almost, given the
definitely
environment that you're going to be in?
I think so, and I think it'll be wrong for us not to, really. Like I just said then, we have to go into the game thinking it's the hardest game of the season, and it probably will be one of the hardest games of the season, because that's how they make it. They make it very, very difficult for you, and they've got some good players that can hurt you.
Could it come down to who copes with the conditions the best? Because it might be tricky.
Yeah, I'm hearing it's going to be a little bit lively. Let's see what the next 48 hours bring, but it could be it could come down to who makes the least mistakes probably on the day.
Brilliant, thanks, Michael.
Yeah, picking up on what the 2 lads said, and the last point, I mean, Accrington spent some money, in their terms I understand, on the pitch, but generally speaking it isn't the best, given that it's going to be Storm, Derek or whoever it is coming. Does that affect what you do in training at all, the conditions or what you expect, or do you just stick to your principles in preparing for a game?
Well, I think you do stick to your principles, but obviously you've got to be mindful and respectful of obviously the conditions. I mean, if it's going to be, another big storm on Saturday and the wind's going to play a part in the game, then obviously, we'll respect that and make sure we play and adhere to that. In terms of the pitch, we've had a couple of difficult pitches away from home of late. We've got a couple more coming up. So, we'll be sensible in how we approach the game and make sure that we're playing the game in the right areas of the field.
Thank you very much.